Hey now, boys and girls. Welcome into show 94 here at the Pucknologists on Tealtown, USA. I'm your host, AJ_Strong, there on the Twitter machine and other social stuff. And with me tonight, of course, Rocket Backhander.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Rocket Backhander. How you doing?
Nice, short and sweet. We're going to have a type 40 tonight. Not even 45.
Not even 45.
Yeah. Hockey Jerk is on assignment, which means stuck at the craps table. But, hey, we're here for you. If we get lucky, maybe he'll pop in. We'll see what happens. But remember to follow us on all the social media channels. You can find them Tealtown USA on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and Reddit. And, hey, if you have an iTunes account, we'd love a review and maybe some 5 stars over there. Totally appreciate that. And remember, if you don't catch us live, you can find us on your favorite podcatcher after the fact on YouTube. The replays always are, and everything on tealtownusa.com. Let's get into the week that was week 22 here of Sharks hockey. Sharks go 2-1 at Philadelphia, then coming home, hosting New Jersey and Pittsburgh. The last 10 games, Sharks have 4-6, just like last week. Now 12 points out of a wild card spot if we're still counting after being 13 out last week. So, you know. Progress, absolutely. 3 points separate 5 teams shooting for the bottom 2 wild card spots. So, hey, there's that. Right?
Yeah. We could always be worse. We could be Detroit.
Oof. Who coincidentally beat the Sharks. Anyway, so let's start at Philadelphia. Aaron Dell would get the start in this one. The big news, of course, though, being that it was the return of Logan Couture the day after the trade deadline occurred. Oh, boy. Even when you look at the postgame on this, you can see that Couture felt like the team needed him back, maybe even a little sooner than he wanted to come back. But either way, not a great game, 4-2 loss. The controllers looked a little disconnected most of this game. And it was the end of a bad road trip. You know, what was that? Let me grab my schedule here. It was, that 4-game Eastern roadie. And it's not like even the travel was very difficult, at Jersey, at New York, at Philly. This is a very small group, but you could tell the boys were just kind of wiped. But on a good note, we see some action from the CUDA players, if you will. Noah Gregor and Joel Shellman both getting their second NHL goals ever. So there's a silver lining if you really want to see it, Rocket.
Okay.
I mean, are you at least looking forward to these last 17 games or so where you can kind of get more of a look at what's in the pipeline and what we can look forward to in the bottom 6 for next season?
No, I don't. I'm not excited about any of these games because we are so far out of a wild card spot. Like, this is not pre-training camp, pre-prospect scrimmage, pre-July showcase. This is not that. This is people who are clobbering the crap out of each other for a playoff spot. And they're all at the end of the road. They're all, battered, beaten, and bruised, and tired, and sore. And I'm nervous because I worry that some of these guys will sustain some injuries that maybe will linger a little bit in next season. And I'm just I don't want them to get beat up unnecessarily. And being 13 points out of 12 points now out of a wild card spot. That's far enough for me to be like, yeah, I don't want you to phone it in, but please don't break yourself on my account, boys.
Well, after that 4-game roadie, the Sharks return home for a 6-game homestand. I believe this is like maybe their second or third longest at home, but hey, maybe you can, again, try to get into some good habits with a little bit of home cooking, if you will. But hey, 2 games at home so far on this stand. The Sharks have won both of them. The first one, of course, being against New Jersey. Martin Jones gets the start now. The Sharks absolutely pathetic through the first period of this one. From what we heard from Coach Bob Bugner, is he basically let the boys stew in the dressing room for about 10 minutes after that first period, just saying, figure it out on your own type of a thing. And then comes in and is just, so were you guys able to chat amongst yourselves? Figuring it out? And
Did we talk?
yeah, exactly. They get their groove back for the second and third and end up going into overtime. And boom, 40 seconds in, the captain, like we just mentioned, just came back and boom, 40 seconds in, he nails the game winner. Now, you can't get too crazy because this is against the worst team in the Metro. But, hey, good habits. They had a comeback. The only thing, Rocket, that I could say bad about that overtime was Logan Couture's goal song.
No, you can't say that was bad. I'm sorry. At the end of, I'm sorry, dude. Like, it's unexpected. It's out of left field, but it's still a joyous celebration. So I think, and I mean, it's 100% true. Yes, girls do just want to have fun. And you know how we have fun? We have fun by watching Logan Couture score goals. So, I mean, like, it all works out. And I mean, like, people want to like, look down on him and be like, that's so dumb, you shouldn't do that. You know what? If it's what brings us joy, let us have our joy. As Sharks fans, we don't have very much this year.
I wonder how many more 80s songs we're going to get this year. Who knows? Remains to be seen.
All of them.
I hope so. I'm still bummed out that there are some players that don't have a song yet. I believe, we'll get to it in a second. But either way, that's the way the New Jersey game shakes out. Then you're hosting Pittsburgh. It's the third coming of Patrick Marleau at this point. I don't know. I've lost count.
Oh yeah, this is sweater number 3 in that building, isn't it?
I believe so.
Yeah.
A 5-0 shutout.
Oof.
Martin Jones getting the start again. This probably is the best we've seen the Sharks look the entire season. Just all out heart, all effort. Just hands Pittsburgh, who, third in their division, is, right now locked into a playoff spot. Hands Pittsburgh their 6th straight loss. I don't know what the hell's going on in Pittsburgh over the last 6 games. Of course, the awful thing about this is Jake Middleton had a horrific injury in this one. Haven't heard an update yet on this.
Oh,
probably
God, we haven't yet, have we? Oh, no.
Yeah, probably won't hear anything until Monday morning at the soonest, and Tuesday morning at the latest, because I'm assuming something is going to occur between now and then, but we'll hear what happens. Tim Heed, hashtag free Heed, would get an assist in his 100th NHL game. And, of course, the funny part of this game was the official scorers.
Oh.
These are official NHL scores. Kane opens the scoring on this one, and somehow the assists are given to Vlasic and Tomas Hertl, who has played a game with the Sharks in a month.
He's that good.
Evidently. I mean, wow. But Joe Thornton, we're back to the goal song thing. Joe Thornton is the one who made it 5-0. If I remember correctly, Joe Thornton had no goal song. It was 2 unlimited. Get ready for this. So it is kind of a pain, or I shouldn't say a pain, but it sucks that if you're going to do something like this, like, you needed to have everybody have their songs submitted before you announced it and have them ret to go.
Yeah, I agree. And I also think they should have fired this off at the beginning of the season. Like, it's a cool idea, but the execution of it was just 3 out of 10. Yeah,
just to crowbar it in the middle of the season. It was just like somebody bandy. I can just picture a bunch of guys sitting around a conference table going, we need a hook. We need something new here. I know, personal goal songs. How's that working out? All right. Anyway, I mean, geez. And then the other funny thing. Look, we love the broadcast crew. All right, Hetty, Bakes, Randy, Ruzi, love them all. But it is fun when they make mistakes. You had Randy is the quintessential professional. I was shocked. Like, when I saw it on the score strip that it said Vlasic and Hertl for the assists, I was like, those guys have made mistakes plenty of times before. I remember at one point, I think they had Vlasic shown as the goalie. Burns was Jones was the second center then they had like placeholder on a line. Like literally the graphics guy were asleep at the wheel that time. But the fact that Randy actually said Hurdle as the assist, I was like, man, Randy, like, I wonder if he just reads that score strip and he's just like, what's the Will Ferrell character?
Anchorman?
Yeah, where he's just like, hey, you put it on the screen, I'm reading it.
I'll read it. Yeah.
So I got a kick out of that. But on that one, for the Middleton one, I just found it comical that at first they see that it's, Middleton looks hurt and wonder what happened. And Hetty immediately goes, Hahn goes, no, he looks hurt. And Hetty just jumps in and goes, no, he lost a skate blade. He lost a blade. He lost a blade. And then all of a sudden it cuts, it does the tight shot of Middleton's skates and you can see both blades clearly on there. And then Randy goes, no, he's hurt. And then Hetty just jumps right in. Oh, yeah, he's hurt. And I'm like, Hetty, come on, dude. You got a monitor right in front of you. You're literally seeing the same feed we're all seeing. But anyway, it was just, for as good as the game was, it was just fun to listen to the broadcast crew. And again, we're just looking for giggles because we know the season is essentially a wash.
Yeah, basically.
And I do want to address the chat for a hot second while we're here. We will get your questions. I'm logging them. So we will get to those. Don't you worry. We're getting to them. But let's get through some other stuff first. So the week that was,
Type 40.
Yeah, Type 40. The week that was, we saw some good play from some key guys. How about Joel Shellman? A point in all 3 games, 2 goals and an assist. You got Sorensen, after being unnoticeable for a long time, gets a goal and 3 assists over these 3 games, including an amazing pass off the boards to Shellman. That was fantastic. Those guys are finding some chemistry. Then you got Noah Gregor, a goal and an assist. Ferraro, a goal and 2 assists. And then Evander Kane. Remember, a 3-game suspension. Then he was benched. Like, he has had a week and a half to write home about. And then over these last 3, a goal and 3 assists. And it's a good thing when Kane is putting up more points than penalty minutes. I think we can all agree on that.
Yeah, I fully agree.
So is there anybody else that has like stood out for you over these 3 games where you're just kind of like, good for them. Like they needed to get some. Or is there somebody conversely where you're going, man, what happened to you? You were so good for a while.
Well, I think it's interesting that, and I mentioned this before on social media. Oh, dear. That there...
A car is being stolen outside.
Somebody's stealing a car outside.
Sure it's not yours. Okay.
No, it's not mine. It's my father's because nice. He lost the transmission on his service truck in the middle of the freeway, and he's driving a rental now. Anyway,
nice.
Yeah. So I think that I mentioned this on my social media too. Is that when we signed a superstar EK65, everybody was like, oh, including me. And that's gone a little bit different than I think we all thought it would. But I think what made me nervous was, and this is something that we've said all season, is that there's no depth. Sharks have no depth. The farm, no depth. We're shallow. We're like we're
kiddie pool.
Kiddie pool, exactly. Puddle. So it made me really nervous. And it's like, well, even a bad superstar, still a superstar. It's better to have them than a bunch of nothing. But in the absence of Erik Karlsson on this team, I really have not felt like doom, gloom, and a complete lack of confidence. Mm-hmm. And maybe I don't know. Maybe they're just playing a little happier now, and maybe I like a happier team.
Oh, interesting to see how the team is responding without the diva in the room.
I'm not saying he's a diva because I can't say that. I just say what I'm. Hey, I'm not going to play the analytics game. I'm just giving it the eye test.
There you go. But this is something that we talked about on After Dark following the Pittsburgh game. Was just Tim Heed has come in basically to replace Karlsson. Not once have I heard anybody say the things about Heed that they were saying about Karlsson. Boy, Karlsson, that's a dangerous pass, him floating that up in the middle, or throwing it into the slot, missing the player, or doing, there was some silliness that Karlsson would, high risk, high reward, but there was some, I'm not hearing anybody make those same comments about Tim Heed, just throwing that out there. And then I think the other elephant in the room that we need to think about just for a hot second, since Marleau has left this team, Pittsburgh hasn't won, and the Sharks have looked great. So maybe he was the problem the whole time.
Oh my God. It's a combination of the two.
Oh,
Wow.
kidding.
No, you're not.
All right, let's get to the numbers. Over the last 5 games, the power play, it's not good, people. 1 for 12, 8%. Oof. Now, has it gotten better looks of late? Yes. But still, you got to bury those. But then again, a lot of new faces on this team. You got to find that chemistry again. However, that being said, we saw Barclay Goodrow leave the team, one of the team's best PKers, and yet the PK over the last 5 games, 14 of 15, 93%. You love to see it. However, they did lose 3 of 5 of those, so maybe they just need to play like 40 minutes of the game on the PK and they'll win more. I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there as an option. Dell over his last 4 starts has posted an 887. Right?
That's okay.
No, that sucks.
I know, but it's not like a 762.
That's true. But there was
It's also not a 920, but still.
Yes. But over those 4 starts, also not a whole lot of goal support. But either way, after that run that we saw Dell have, it's interesting when you juxtapose it to Jones' last 4 starts, which is a 928. But when you factor in the 5th game, which was a shutout, all of a sudden that average jumps up to 942. So Jones over the last 5 games has had 2 shutouts, plus a 913, plus a 920. He did have the one bad game versus the Islanders, but the entire team looked, worn at that point. Remember, that Islanders game was played less than 24 hours from the previous game, 3rd game in 4 days. So you can kind of see that maybe the Sharks gave up some high-danger chances more than they usually do. But either way, maybe this less of a workload, and this is something that Kevin Kurz talked about a week or so ago, that maybe Jones's workload caught up to him, and that was one of the problems. But maybe also working with Nabby and having a lighter load has allowed Jones to find his game, get a little more comfortable. What say you?
No, I fully agree with that. I think that you have your guys out there who you're only good for like 14 minutes and then you just fall apart. You guys out there who they hit their sweet spot right around that 20-minute mark, and you got beasts like Burns who can play for, 30. Not great forever, but he can play, some minutes. And I think that kind of sweet spot is no different for a netminder. There are goalies who can play shutouts and back-to-backs and back-to-backs and home and homes and home and aways and then yeah, and they're only out because they just need a maintenance day and the backup guy's there. And there's other guys who can't take that kind of workload, and that's the reason why the NHL teams have 2 netminders. So I think that this is important for Martin Jones and his trajectory as a professional goalie, not necessarily just with the Sharks, but of course with the Sharks. But for him to be able to take this opportunity and really find out where his sweet spot is, and if this is edging towards the center of it by him pulling back a little bit and having Dell take a little bit more of the workload, I'm all for it. I think it's great, and it seems to be helping. And Kurtz has said that Jones has brought it up more than once about how he's like, bruh, I played a lot. Have you noticed over the last 4 years how much y'all have ridden me and put me away wet? Mm-hmm. So I get it.
Well, there's been a lot of talk of, do the Sharks try to fix their issue in goal? Do they go with, they're tied with Jones for another 4 seasons. Dell is FA, so do you keep him? Do you look at something else? But I've been under, my quote is, look, I think you go with Jones for 1 more season, give him a full summer working with Nabby, and maybe you do bring someone in to challenge him more than an Aaron Dell. We'll see.
Can we get James Reimer back?
Boy, that would be interesting. I don't have a problem with that.
Yeah, same here. I don't think there's anybody in the Sharks fan base who's like, no. Like all of, I know that it's a cap situation and contracts and blah blah blah, and we're just puffing each other's dreams here. But let us have our dreams. It's been a bad season.
Well, through 33 games with DeBoer, they were 15, 16, and 2. Through 32 games with Boogie, 13, 17, and 2. I don't know that you could blame coaching for that. I think it was the easy change to try to go with. Then again, PDB didn't have injuries to Couture and Hurdle and Karlsson, but still, it will be fun to see if Bugner, based on what he does for the remainder of this season, if he does get the interim tag removed, or if Doug Wilson looks for someone else, and if he does, is part of that deal that, you need to keep Bugner as the defensive coach, though. Like, if that's going to be a caveat to a contract, because typically head coach wants to bring in his own guys. So,
yeah.
Anyway, let's get to some comments in the chat real quick before we go any further. Zach, do you honestly see the Sharks beating the Leafs on Tuesday? Well, there wasn't a lot of people that thought the Sharks were going to beat Pittsburgh. So anything can happen at this point. And I think they can beat Toronto because, look, Toronto's spiraling. You don't know what's going to happen there. If anybody can beat Frederick Anderson right now. So it's dude, they got beaten by a Zamboni driver, for Christ's sake. So if the Sharks bring the same effort that they brought against Pittsburgh, I think the Sharks definitely have a chance to make it a three win streak.
Yeah, why not?
Okay,
let's do it.
That's what I'm talking about.
Well, let's do it.
So Cheryl pointing out that they weren't sure who scored the goal, which is why we didn't hear a song. Now, I'm trying to remember what player that was. I want to say that was Ferraro.
That was Ferraro.
Okay, but we also that it was Thornton that scored. So I think he just does not have a song right now, which doesn't surprise me. That's just absolutely Thornton. He's like, who needs a song? Who cares?
What? No, somebody had mentioned this. They said it's either Rooster by Alice in Chains.
Which is what it should be.
Yes, or Stroke by Billy Squier.
Yep. Or Clarence Carter has a song called Strokin'.
Oh, yeah. I remember that from Nutty Professor. He's in the car listening to it.
There you go. So, see, that's what I'm saying. I was just... Cheryl, though, pointing out a great point, too. Maybe they're playing free since playoffs aren't, like, weighing down. Like, they're not worried about making the playoffs. So now it's that option of, like, look, I don't have to be worried. I don't have to grip the stick that tight because, hey, I can play a little looser because playoffs aren't something that we're worried about right now. And I think this is also an option for Bugner to kind of give, like if somebody makes a mistake or whatever, we saw that I don't know how many times from DeBoer. A young guy would come up, he'd make a mistake, and his ass would be stapled to the bench for the rest of the game.
Goodrow.
Thank you. So you would see things like that. Maybe Bugner says, hey, look, not a lot on the line here. We're not just, the only thing we have to play for really is to try to screw Ottawa's draft pick. So, have some fun and just, go with it. Do the right things. That's what we really want to see.
Yeah.
And maybe we get rid of Dalton Prout. So other Sharks news, of course, for those of you living under a rock, the Sharks have traded Patrick Marleau to the Penguins for a conditional 2021 third rounder. It will move to a second rounder if the Penguins are to win the Cup. Over these last 6 games, they haven't looked great, but I think Tristan Jarry will find his groove. I think the Penguins are too good to not figure out what's going on between Crosby, Malkin, they added Sheary, you get Marleau. I mean, there are some solid pieces there. And this is one of those things where, hey, crap the bed now. Don't do it in April. Get it,
What if Phil Kessel was the glue that held that whole franchise together?
Well, and I even wanted to, if you remember, Teal Town USA, we put out shirts last playoffs that said, win it for Jumbo. I kind of want to put together something that's win it for Patty. I don't know what the graphic would be. We'll come up with it, but I just can't picture people wearing a bright yellow shirt with a Teal Town logo. But anyway, I digress. Goodrow, Goodrow, and the third round pick the Sharks got for Justin Braun. That went to Tampa Bay for a first round pick, and Anthony Greco, who, by the way, scored his first goal for the Barracuda earlier this week. It is a shame that Goodrow's last play in teal is getting his pocket picked by Toes on Long Island, but that's fine. Greco had to come over in the deal because Tampa Bay had 50 contract, or they were beyond their 50 contract limit. So is this essentially Goodrow for a third, or essentially Goodrow and a third for Tampa's first? Basically.
Or a freaking first. And I'm so happy about that. I don't know if this is, it is Deal and Doug getting people in the chair and getting the things done. But also I think this speaks to how much quality there is in Goodrow's game that just was never fully utilized here in San Jose. And also, I think it's sad to see that one of his last performances in teal, he got his pocket picked. But you got to say, one of the first acts he did as a Tampa Bay Lightning member was to just knock the holy snot out of John Tavares. And that was
twice.
Twice, yeah. And that was a lot of fun, especially when Tavares is sprawled out on the ice trying to smack Goody with his stick. I'm like, yeah,
oh, dude.
Suck it.
Tavares pulled the don't you know who I am card with that with that stick swing. It was oh man, I wish I would have had the gift for that. But yeah, that was absolutely entertaining. The other thing, but wait, I had one more thing, but we got to get to Felix in the chat here, who says, I will say I also wouldn't put it past Wilson to sign another Haley/Prout type player again in the future.
You can leave the chat. Get out. Just get out.
Well, no, I think he makes a fair point in that. No, not Prout. You don't want another guy who's just a concussion problem. But it wouldn't surprise me to see Doug Wilson be like, so All-Star MVP John Scott, what you got going next season? League minimum or something, and just almost kind of riding that same train that he rode in 2015, where it's kind of like this upcoming season 2021 is again going to be that kind of transition where we want to see more from guys like Gregor and Shellman or Blickfeld, finally get a look at maybe a Chekovic or Shelevsky and take a look at those guys, but they have to have that, that blanket like Linus of John Scott.
John Scott.
Just saying.
Just comes and tucks him into bed at night.
Yeah, because you lost your thumper with Dylan.
California Cruisin' asks what Roman Pollock is doing these days.
Oh, can we not?
Yeah, see what you did, AJ.
In fact, if I remember correctly, I think he's been on IR a few times this season. So anyway, other news for the NHL trade deadline, of course, was Joe Thornton has remained in San Jose. Although if you listen to the comments that had come out a day or so after the deadline, he didn't sound necessarily thrilled about it. Sounded like he wanted to go to a contender and try to go for it. And the thing that is really perplexing to me is the Dallas option. And I say that only because of the social media. I don't know if you saw the same stuff, Rocket, but you'd see one tweet and it was like Dallas pushing hard to get Joe Thornton. And then a day later you see comments from the Dallas media, and it's like, yeah, they weren't talking to San Jose about Thornton, and we're not sure where that's coming from. Mm-hmm. So I don't know what's going on. I think it could have been an interesting story just based on two things. First of all, being reunited, of course, with Little Joe. And the fact of the matter is there was an article that came out in The Athletic about the Dallas Stars that Jim Nill told a story of back in the day, whenever it was, early 2010, 11-ish, whatever it was. We all heard that story where Doug Wilson came out. There was some comments after Joe Thornton lost his C, and it was, Joe he can lash out at people sometimes when he gets angry or blah, blah, blah. And then they brought those comments to Thornton. Thornton said, Doug needs to stop lying. That was the quote. And the story from Jim Nill was we were looking at trading Jason Spezza. We had a deal that we were like, Wilson had agreed to it. Everything was going to work out. We were going to make this deal happen. We were going to get Joe Thornton. And Joe Thornton, I guess, was, despite the fact that he was, quote unquote, in a fuck you situation with Doug Wilson, Thornton nixed it. It was like his family was firmly entrenched in San Jose by that time. He was very comfortable, didn't want to move to Dallas. Either way, it could have been an interesting story.
Are you still talking about 2010 or are you talking about now?
No, I'm talking about back in 2010.
So you're still on 2010.
Yeah, just for that one part. But yeah,
tight 40.
Yeah, I know. So anyway, all right, we'll move on from the Thornton part. After the trade deadline, Doug Wilson was quoted as saying, "The bones are in place for this team. It will be a retool, not a rebuild." Okay. Aren't you using the same bones that you had last year?
No, because, no.
I mean, it's the same contracts.
Yeah.
So I don't understand why. I get it. Well, okay, to a certain extent, I understand why Wilson is so freaked out to use the term rebuild because.
Well,
go ahead.
I think our problem is not only it's like the pieces that we have aren't good for us, but they're also not good for anybody else either. So even if they wanted to call it a rebuild, there's nobody to sell the pieces off to in order to rebuild it.
Yeah, nobody wants to take those long-term contracts.
Exactly. So, I guess, he can't call it a rebuild because he basically got himself stuck in the situation where he can't rebuild. It's all a retool from here. Because you're right, it is the same contracts. Because he's stuck. He can't do anything with them.
And for all the people that sit there and go, "Oh, fire Wilson, fire whoever you bring in is going to be handcuffed by the same contract."
Mm-hmm, exactly, yeah.
So,
I think he's probably the best person to get it out. Get out. Yeah, get out. Get out if you want to survive. No, I think he's the best person to get us out of this mess, but I also think that maybe once everything is all cleared and the ship has once again been righted, there might be, some writing on the wall for him.
Well, again, I think maybe Doug Wilson's seat starts to turn room temperature if the Sharks miss next season. But as I stated on After Dark recently, the owner of the Sharks, he's not here. He's in Germany most of the time. He's got a lot of things going on. Now, they always say that, he watches every game on a stream or on delay or whatever, and he's paying attention. He knows what's going on, and that's all fine and well. But that's also a case of, do we know that to be absolute fact? You can be painting it like that. Again, let me piss on your leg, tell you it's raining. We don't know. And the fact of the matter is, Hasso Plattner is a guy who just never talks to the media. It would be nice if he would talk and at least answer questions like once, twice a year. That would be kind of fun, so at least you'd get an idea of where his head was at. But the fact of the matter is, Doug Wilson does all the talking when it comes to that, so you really don't know. But it is what it is.
He's just the owner, though.
I know.
He's just the pockets.
Yeah, but he's the one who says who's going to be his GM.
So if he's happy with Doug, then...
Well, let's see if he's happy with Doug if there's no revenue coming in April of 2021. That's my point. So let's move on to around the NHL. We were going to have Jerks winners and losers from the trade deadline. Obviously, he's not here, so we'll have to cut that in later. Around the NHL, just a few quick notes. Are you tired of the David Ayres story yet? I mean, it was fun. It was absolutely fun, but I think for the most part, we're used to living in the 24 to 48 hour news cycle, and the fact that we're still hearing about this. The Upper Deck has given him a card.
That's so cute.
The Canes are printing up shirts. His wife is now famous for tweeting "fuck me" on Twitter when it happened. I just feel like this story is being run into the ground just a little bit, and I wonder if it's because of all the bad news that kind of happened at the beginning of the season, where we saw Jim Montgomery shown a pink slip because of alcohol issues, or at least that's That's what it was stipulated as. We saw other coaches being fired because of inappropriate conduct, and it's almost like we need something fun to talk about, and this is a great story. But the other thing is that no one's talking about really the fact that how the hell does Toronto not, score at will on this asshole? They only got 10 shots on goal on the guy.
Yeah. That's Kane's defense. Okay, so I have to say that this is it's different because we have a different perspective. Okay, we're there. We're in like the ground zero of what goes on in the hockey world. Like if somebody has a really bad shot, somebody has a really good shot, we hear about it. If we're not watching the game, we hear about it in intermission or the post game. We hear about it immediately. But we don't know. I mean, I don't at least know what's going on in, say, track and field, Olympic track and field, what's going on in that community right now, right? So if something really major goes on there, they're going to know about it. The track and field people all are going to know about it. And the rest of the world, maybe not going to know about it so much because they're not in that little ground zero. But if it's something really big and really makes a ripple, it's going to get out there. And the farther it gets out there, the more it gets talked about. And since we've been there since the moment it happened, basically, we, the hockey community, have heard it more than anybody else, literally more than any other community on the planet. But it's such a good story and such a story that's worth sharing, not necessarily oversharing, but sharing enough to where it draws interest outside of the NHL.
Yeah,
I mean, it might feel a little bit worn just from our perspective, but we have to remember that not everybody is as plugged into the NHL as us because, we're smarter than everybody else, but whatever.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Hot Wheels call me a wet blanket, and Cheryl's just, hey, it's a feel-good story. Let it happen. I agree with that, but it's just like, man, we're damn near a week into this, and it's still like one of the biggest topics where I'm just surprised by it. I do think it's a really fun story, but like,
how long did that black cat story go on? Do you remember playoffs?
Yeah.
How long?
Playoffs?
That cat got its own rally towel.
Yeah, but I don't remember like seeing that cat do a national tour on TSN and ESPN and getting its own hockey card from Upper Deck and all of those.
It was on all of the freaking news stations. It was on every news channel. It was all over the place.
Yeah, but I wasn't hearing about it a week later. I was hearing about it for 2 or 3 days. Either way, it's just, it is an awesome story. But I think it's time for the next feel good story up at this.
Well,
point.
Make it happen already because it's not happening fast enough, obviously.
Well, I have like the feel good story of fans showing up and trading Girl Scout cookies for pucks with goaltenders. That's been very fun to watch.
I heard somebody got some avocados the other night at a Barracuda game.
Yes, I believe friend of the show Skylar. Threw down some avos and whatnot. So good for you.
I can't believe that actually happened.
Also around the league, and this is kind of an interesting press release that they threw out. The Seattle 32s have released interior mock-ups of their new arena, and they had a very impressive point of view in their press release where they said, we have less suites in the new arena than any new building built in the U.S. over the last 10 years. We actually limited the number of suites. They're very focused on the atmosphere in the bowl. They want to make sure it is tight and loud with perfect acoustics to the point where they've actually kind of like tried to hide the high money areas, instead of highlighting them, because we've seen that on like Staples where there's 2 bands of just, the big money corporate suites, or you see even with the 49ers relatively new stadium where it's a whole tower of the corporate suite. Like, here are the haves and here are the have-nots and whatnot. And Seattle's kind of taking this approach of like, we want this really to be about the hardcore fans. We still want that corporate dollar, and we're going to have places for that corporate dollar to have a good time.
Right.
But that's not going to be a big focus. So I'm really kind of interested to see how this arena comes out, but I thought that press release had some really great quotes on it. If you want to go find it, NHL.com, search those Seattle, 32s, Seattle new arena, whatever. Interesting.
Man, if they were the 32s,
I I'm down for that name. I think I would go for 32s over Kraken at this point.
I agree. I'm not mad at 32s. Like I'm I'm not, I mean, like there's the 60s, what are the 67ers or
Yeah, the Ottawa 67s.
yeah. So if there's the 67s, screw it. Let's have 32s. I'm all right.
Dude,
Yeah.
I would be so down with it. It'd be like the Seattle Tres Dos, bitches. I'd be all up for that.
Yeah.
So the other day, Jerk and I got into a conversation. It was like, if you could choose, like if you were going to get a jersey, one from each team, who is the player that you would take from that team? And it can be all time. You know, so it's like if you get an Oilers one, maybe you're going to get Gretzky.
Sure.
Okay. Versus a McDavid or a Draisaitl or whatnot. But one of and we went through the teams, and when we talked about Buffalo, I was verklempt. No, that's not the right word. I was at a loss is what I was. I had no idea who to pick. I've just like Buffalo, you know, I'm just kind of, not really anybody I can think of taking until this week. All right.
Okay.
Let's show you the play of the week. And the player that I am taking now, if I'm getting a Buffalo Sabres jersey, would be Ristolainen, only because of the way that he absolutely destroyed Ryan Reeves this week. I mean, can you feel me, people? You see Reeves coming in 12, 15 feet out. He's got a little bit of steam in the engine. Ristolainen's just standing there, catches him out of the corner of the eye, braces for it. Yeah, and just barely leans in. And Reeves just bounces off of him like players used to bounce off of Douglas Murray, and he just goes into an absolute heap.
Every time I see this hit, all I can hear is like Big Ben, that bell, that giant bell.
Gong.
Yeah, because I can see him like wobbling back and forth as he's falling, so I know he's not like fully able to see straight, and that's exciting.
Oh man, that was gorgeous. Anyway, a couple quick notes before we finish up our tight 45 here. For those of you who were unaware, at the beginning of this season, the Sharks put out a gorgeous calendar featuring their dog Finn at Sharks Pup on Twitter. But they put out a calendar, and we've come to find out that the player featured for March 2020 is Brendan Dillon. Just things in the way they work out sometimes. That's all I'm saying. But boy, it's kind of like you see that I can just picture people who weren't paying attention, and they just flipped it over to March 1st, and they went, awkward. But anyway, finally, I don't know who you are, but stop. And the reason why I say this is because somebody out there has created a petition on like petition.org or whatever the hell the website is that everybody and their mother can go create a silly petition for. And what's funny is the thing that they're driving for is 100 signatures, which I was like, 100 people asking for something, probably not going to make that much of a difference. But what they're petitioning is to have Shang Peng, friend of the show, did an interview with them a couple months ago, have Shang Peng replace Kevin Kurz at The Athletic. Now, my question here is, you have to pay to read The Athletic. So you're basically saying, I like Shang so much, I want him to go to a place where I have to pay to read him instead of reading him for free right now.
Put that man behind a paywall immediately.
Right? Like, reward him with a paywall. I mean, Come on. Can't we just read both? Like, and my whole thing is, Kurz, he's such a Debbie Downer, and he's clearly biased or whatever, but he's got it out for the Sharks. And of course, my question being is, tell me, who's the person putting the gun to your head and forcing you to read his Twitter and Athletic articles? You know? Who is that person? Maybe that's the person you should have the petition against.
Yeah.
but I don't get it. Everything is subjective. It's all subjective. I absolutely love Shang's writing. I also like a lot of the stuff that Kurz puts out. I love a lot of the stuff that Pachelka. Just embrace the fact that people are writing about it. Could you imagine if we only had one writer? Like, isn't it nice to have multiple writers, just like podcasts? When we started this, it was us. That was it. And now there's like 20 out there. So, hey, the more the merrier. Try out everybody, pick the ones that you like. And if someone is pointing a gun to your head that you have to watch the Pucknologists, you tell me who it is. I'll kick their ass then too.
Yeah, we don't condone forcing anybody to listen/watch to this show.
Yeah. But the same thing. It's like, really, it just seems like such a petty thing to do. It's like, come on. But whatever. Anyway, hey, that was a nice tight 45. Probably would have been an hour and 45 if Jerk was here, just him doing trade losers and winners. But
hashtag, you hate to see it. Hashtag intellectual property. Hashtag foreseen.
Yes.
Hashtag no free ads.
California Cruising. Can we get a petition to get Drew back? Dude, they put one up back in 2015, bro. How'd that work out? It didn't. So what are you going to do? The only way Drew Remenda comes back here is if Hasso Plattner sells the team to somebody else. That's pretty much it. Hate to say it because I would love to have Drew back, but anyway. And then Hot Wheels making the right point. You can't complain about the NHL not getting coverage and drawing new fans, and then complain when they do get attention. Right?
See?
That's all I'm saying.
Don't look a gift goalie in the mouth, especially when it drives a Zamboni for your team.
Hey now. So next week we may be on a little bit later than normal, or probably not. We're probably, I'm trying to figure this out. You know what? Stay tuned to the Teal Town USA Twitter, because the Sharks do play the rare Sunday game, and in fact there are 2 in March, so that may throw off our schedule a little bit. Maybe we'll put up a poll and say, would you rather us have a Pucknologists at 5 o'clock next Sunday, or should we just go at our normal 8 o'clock hour, but on Monday following? Either way. If
you do Monday, you don't get Rocket.
Ruh-roh.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we'll put out a poll, but chances are we're going to do 5 o'clock on Sunday. Anyway, Toronto, Minnesota, Colorado, and Ottawa coming up this week for the Sharks. Toronto, again, it was mentioned very early on. I think the Sharks can win that. Again, Toronto has not been playing their best. Things are a little sus over there, too, if I can invoke a little jerk. Then you get Minnesota. By the way, that's the broadcaster bobblehead game. Can't wait to see that going. I hope they do something funny for the pregame or something where they're all like 4 lined up and they're all, just kind of bobbing their head for a second, and then we can gift that. I think that would be outstanding.
Fabulous.
Right? And that would be the return, quote unquote, of Alex Stalock to the tank, and dude is playing some very good hockey of late. Then you get Colorado, who's been kind of even keel lately, and then of course Ottawa, which the social media for that game should be great because it's all going to be talk about a lottery draft pick. So that's what we can look forward to, kids, before the next Pucknologists. I thought I had one more thing on the list, but I guess not. Didn't write it down. So, Rocket, where can the people find you on the social media so we can wrap this up and get this party going?
Hello, my name is Rocket Backhander. You can find me hanging out on Twitter, talking about hockey and YouTube drama and stuff.
Yeah, don't you know?
I look at all the YouTube drama, and I appreciate casserole recipes as well. So check me out over on Twitter, capital R, capital B, little Ackhander 76, R Backhander 76 at Twitter. And you can also check me out over on Instagram, like weird selfies and pictures of my feet and the cat and stuff, and then also Sharks things too when it happens, and it does happen. Rocket Backhander, one word, all lowercase, Instagram. That's it. AJ?
Hey now. And when I bring up Minnesota, remember the last time the Sharks played Minnesota, Jones 1-0 shutout in that one. So that could be a lot of fun. John, bringing the super chat, $2 donation. We so appreciate that. And remember, anytime you use the super chat function and donate, your question automatically gets read and answered. Is Plasso? I guess that's Hasso Plattner, but I like that.
Same.
Like Vera on Cheers You Never See. Absolutely. Or like Wolowitz's mom on Big Bang Theory.
Or Matt Damon on the Jimmy Kimmel Show.
Absolutely. Yes. Thank you very much, John. That was cool.
Thank you.
You AJ_Strong on social media. That's where I am. So with that, we will catch you next Sunday. Sounds like it's going to be an earlier than normal show, so maybe we can go from like 5. Let me see. The game starts at 7 p.m. Maybe we go like 5 to 6, 5 to 6:15 or something. Then we give you that little bathroom break there, and then you can watch Brody and those guys do, an inferior show to ours, but a show nonetheless. And they got a full-blown production crew and a hot spanking new studio. What are you going to do? No, Brody and those guys, they know we love them. So anyway, thank you very much for watching. We will catch you next week. So remember, as always, keep it real, keep it teal, keep it real teal. Thank you very much. Hit that subscribe button. Tell a friend. We're very close to 2,000, and we would appreciate hitting it. Thanks again. See you next week.